Holidays can be a joyous time, but they also bring unique challenges, especially when it comes to maintaining our mental well-being, navigating personal questions. Especially when it comes to maintaining our mental well-being, navigating personal questions, and dealing with complex family dynamics. From strategies to stay mentally sane amidst family gatherings to tips on avoiding personal inquiries and managing abusive behavior. You've got it all covered today, don't you?
I hope I do. The holiday season can be such a beautiful time, especially with our Desi holidays popping up as well.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I mean, whether we celebrate Thanksgiving or Christmas or not.
And then Diwali's right around the corner.
Diwali's right around the corner. So we often, go home, and I always wonder that, I'm so lucky to have a very healthy family,
Yes.
but I know that's not the case for many. So that's why I was thinking that this would be a cool conversation to have.
Yeah.
It could be fun and lighthearted, but also, really we can discuss how to keep yourself or your children safe during this season.
Yes, absolutely. So staying mentally sane will be the topic right now. So how can I create personal boundaries to protect my mental well-being during Thanksgiving with the family?
Yeah, this is, something I personally practice as well. I really, the first hour in the morning when I wake up, I don't like to talk to anyone.
Okay.
Love you, mom and dad, but they love to talk in the morning. And so I actually had to sit down and tell them that, hey, first thing in the morning, I like to have my cup of coffee. I like to play my Wordle or whatever, little trivia game that I have.
Love it.
Just buffer.
Yeah.
And then I can start, talking and having a conversation. So it's really about analyzing how you can keep yourself calm. Like what techniques do you have in your, pockets that keep you on a normal schedule on a day-to-day basis. Yeah. Like my brother loves to go to the gym, but that's like his 2 hours away that he keeps himself mentally sane during these times. So really writing down and analyzing what types of techniques keep you sort of healthy, and then also having that conversation, if you're able to, with your family members that, hey, this is my schedule, this keeps me happy. You don't even have to say mentally sane, because I know that can be a little parents will just
your
be
pockets of peace.
Yeah, pockets of peace. There we go. And just writing those things down, talking to them, talking about those things with your family members can really sort of help them also realize how important maybe alone time is to you, and how this time can be stressful for you personally.
No, absolutely. I agree with you. And I think just as us adults need that, I think children need the same. And I know my little ones, they not so little anymore, but they like to have their, when they wake up in the morning, Iman, she'll wake up and she'll run in her room and she'll go on her bed and she'll just lay down and just have that maybe 5-10 minutes extra of just quietness. And then she's chipper. But if I disturb her in that little 10 minutes, she's like, can I just have a minute to myself? I'm like, yes, you can. I'm sorry. Take that time.
Because when we analyze it, we don't like to talk in the morning until we've had our chai or coffee, whatever it may be. So then putting that pressure onto kids is so harmful as well, because I know growing up, I love my family, but, when they would be like, okay, wake up and it's time to come downstairs to eat with your other family members, I would be anxious. I'd be like, oh my gosh, what am I signing up for? Forcing them to come downstairs, at a certain time. That's if they have heads up, that's fine. But if you just wake them up in the morning and you're like, come downstairs, no.
Yeah, no, it not this day and age. It does not work. I know there was some mom was telling me that she will actually let her kids have a mental day off from school.
Oh my goodness.
And I thought that was so beautiful, because if the kid is telling you that, hey, I just need a break and I just can't go to school today. I mean, if it becomes a habit, then that's a different story. But if they just need a mental break, I think that's good. And let the school know, hey, my child is taking a mental day off. And that's important to have, because I feel like that gives them that recharge and just to right?
Absolutely. And I always say this, and this might be a tangent, that if your kid is like needing a day off or like not wanting to go to school, there might be a reason behind it, and it might be a really good idea to sit down with them that day and ask them like, hey, is there any bullying going on? Do you feel like maybe one of your teachers isn't like nice to you? What's going on? So that's so healthy.
I agree. And in fact, I had a morning like that with my little one, and she was just like, I just don't want to go to school because I'm going to miss you. I'm like, oh, my love, I'm going to miss you too, but we got to go to school. And now that I'm talking about it, it's like, maybe I should have given her a mental day off.
Hey, it's okay. You're learning, and you're open to hearing that, you know, other people's experiences. Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. So what are effective strategies for managing stress and anxiety when spending extended time with family during the holidays? Oh, God.
I know this is, you know, this will vary from person to person because, as I mentioned, it's the techniques that work for you, right? For me personally, I like to bring my big old like AirPod, you know, headphones home, and I like to go on walks. You know, I like to say, if I'm getting too overwhelmed, I just say, hey, I'm going to go on like a 45-minute walk, de-stress, listen to music, listen to a podcast, listen to the Chai Time podcast.
Yes. We're on Spotify. We'll give you the list.
Yes. And de-stress and setting personal boundaries, once again, comes with conversation as well. You know, you might not be able to tell your parents directly, but by telling your siblings, you know, if you're home, or your, you know, sister-in-law, brother-in-law, whoever it may be, that, hey, when I start to like get overwhelmed, you know, I like to go on a walk. So if anyone asks where I am, I'm on a walk. And it just helps me calm down. And if you don't want to tell them that it keeps you mentally sane, you can also just say, I like to take a walk to digest my food.
There you go.
No one's going to ask you questions, but if your family members are like mine, they would want to come along.
I was just going to ask you, so what do you do then?
I just tell them that this is my like me time, and I like to listen to my podcast, and it's something that I do regularly. And if you emphasize that you do something regularly and it's in your schedule, people are more open to letting you do it.
That.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. And I mean, no matter what, it's going to be stressful, whether you have a healthy relationship, unhealthy relationship with your family members, especially extended family, because you have to kind of have this, I guess, like this facade, you know, to just be kind and say yes to everything. But one thing I've noticed is that if they have the audacity to ask me to do things, I also have the privilege to say no, and I can do other things besides what they're wanting.
And those are the things that you need to also teach your children, that it's okay to say no. It's okay to have boundaries, and it's okay because at the end of the day, you have to do what feels right for you. You don't have to please everyone around you.
It's like, you know, I think a few shows back you mentioned that you have told your daughters that you don't have to hug family members if you don't feel like doing that. And that autonomy is so important for children, especially during this time, because they're you know, they have the same emotions we have, but just don't have the techniques to express them the way that adults can, you know? And I'm in no way a mental health professional. I'm just saying this from experience and just having done some research.
But having that power, right? Like if you're telling a young child that they have the power to say no, I think that holds a lot of weight.
Absolutely.
That makes them feel empowered.
Absolutely. And letting them guide how they want to navigate a relationship, right? I had to, you know, be friendly with a lot of my aunts and uncles growing up. And like, now that I'm an adult, my parents are like, oh, you can decide what you want to do. And I was like, I already knew this person wasn't a good person back in the day.
I just did it because I thought I had to.
And so it's so empowering, as you mentioned, to give that autonomy.
Yeah. I love that. So are there mindfulness or relaxation techniques that can help maintain mental stability in potentially challenging family situations?
Yeah, absolutely. I think meditation, especially because there's been so much conversation about meditation, yoga, and all of those things. And I honestly thought it was fake. I thought this was just one of those schemes where it's like, oh, download mindfulness apps and, you know, pay us $5 a month for it.
I've done it all. but it
just
works.
Noticed that when I even take 5 minutes to myself and I listen to affirmations or a meditative, a meditation
guided meditation.
Guided meditation. I sleep better, or I start my day off better. There's your body, but then there's your parasympathetic response as well, which is what's happening internally, subconsciously.
Right.
And we might think we're relaxed, but really our brain is still firing up. And at night, if you notice, if you wear like a smartwatch or a smart device, why your heart rate didn't lower until like 4 a.m., it's because your mind is still going.
Yep.
And so honestly, mindfulness, there are some great YouTube videos for free out there that I know a lot of my friends and family listen to.
Yeah.
Whatever else you like to do you like to journal? Take 10-15 minutes out to do that.
Yeah.
Do you like to draw? Do you like to, whatever
I like
activities?
to doodle.
Yeah, exactly. Take time out, for those activities and for yourself. Take the time to take a bath, Once again, it might sound repetitive. Take a walk, but and you don't have to explain yourself to anyone when you're doing these things. And you can just say, "This is what relaxes me."
Yeah.
And if you have to step away from the dinner table for just to go to the bathroom, quote unquote,
or run. No, I'm just kidding.
Run out of the door. If you had to go to the bathroom for 5-10 minutes just to breathe and listen to some do some deep breathing work, do it and take care of yourself, because if you don't take care of yourself, no one else is gonna know that, no one else is gonna do it for you, and no one else is gonna even know that you needed that time.
That's true. Your body has a way of telling you that, hey, take that minute. Listen.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We tend to just kind of oh, no, I'm fine. But then at the end, you're just there's so many emotions that are built up, especially during holiday seasons, because you are around family members and conversations that sometimes are not pleasant. And you don't want to really hear and be around that.
Exactly.
And so, it is important. I like those techniques.
Yeah. Thank you.
I use them all.
It's whatever works for you at the end of the day,
Yeah, absolutely. So avoiding personal questions is what we're going to talk about next. What are polite ways to deflect or redirect personal questions from family members during Thanksgiving gatherings?
I really struggle with this because as we were talking off, off the show, it's if somebody has the audacity to ask me a personal question that's uncalled for, we should be able to respond in the same manner. But of course we have, as our Desi families, we have to have some type of respect, right?
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate.
Yes. Yes.
But redirection, I always like to flip the question onto that person,
Okay.
Just recently, last week in Dallas, somebody was asking me, what do I want to do later on in life? And I said, I'm really happy with what I'm doing now. Yeah. And I'm really...
You're making a difference.
Right. And I was I'm proud of myself as to how far I've come.
Yeah.
And whenever I want to proceed in possibly education, whatever else I want to do, I'll let y'all know. But this person kept asking me again and again. And I was so what is your son doing?
You redirected that quick.
Yeah. And so to ask that, is, you have been asking me these questions this whole time. What are you doing? Exactly. And that really makes them think that, oh my gosh, I have been asking very personal questions. Or one of the biggest questions is when are you getting married? And this is a good time to pull in your family members that have your back, or your friends that might be around, because my dad's response, I love him for this. Whenever people ask, oh, when is, my brother Amrit, when's Amrit getting married, or when is Tishya getting married? He's when they do, you'll receive an invite. Daddy, yes. And so, those are good ways to deflect. And I think, having a safe person around you, I know my brother is my safe person, that even if my parents are maybe asking some questions, that he'll have my back, that, let's not talk about that right now. Let's enjoy the dinner. And I love that. Just really figuring out either how to flip, a question, or the safe person to jump in and help you set boundaries.
Yeah.
I know that it's really difficult in the moment to figure it out, but really just having, some things in your arsenal, just think about how you would respond to certain scenarios and have those ready to be used when need be.
Yeah, I agree with you. I remember when I was a lot younger, I would didn't like awkward questions, so I would always directly answer them, and my mom would side-eye me or give me the eye and like, no, like, can't talk to your elders like that. And then I would of course respect that and get quiet, but I don't do that with my kids. Like, of course, I want them always to be respectful, which is important, but also speak their mind. Like, if you feel a certain way, it's important to say it. And you don't have to be rude about it. You can be kind about it, but just say what you feel. Like, don't suppress yourself.
Absolutely. So, that's amazing. And I mean, you're such a great mother for allowing your kids to be
Thank you.
So, just have power over their own answers. But that's a big thing, is if you just say that I'm uncomfortable answering this, if you have the opportunity to say that, say it. Because I don't think you should ever put yourself willingly, or unwillingly into a situation which you're uncomfortable. We always say trust your gut. And if your gut is telling you that don't answer this, you don't have to answer this, don't at all. You know, no matter how much this person means to you, if they really had that much respect for you, they wouldn't be asking those
such silly questions. Yeah, absolutely. So so how can I set boundaries to ensure that certain topics are off limits for discussion during family events?
This is, I think, a really interesting question, and I speak on this with my own experience, but my friends' experiences as well. And one of my, dear friends, she's a part of the LGBTQ plus community, and her parents are totally open. Like, they're so accepting.
Love it.
But her extended family members are still confused, right? Which I'm like, why are you confused? It's not a topic of conversation. It's just who she is. And so one of the things that she does is tell her parents and siblings and cousins that, hey, if somebody brings up, my sexuality or what, my dating life, whatever it may be, jump in and ask, create a distraction or ask another question. Use your safe people around you to set boundaries and talk to your parents and family members beforehand and really say that I don't want to talk about these things and I'm not going to answer a question about these topics at all.
Fair. And that's so amazing. We're going to hold this thought real quick and come back.
Great.
Welcome back to 103.5 Hum FM here with your Chai Time Girls. For those of you that have just tuned in, we are in conversation with Tishya Bedi from Daya Houston, and we are talking about awkward situations at the Thanksgiving table and other festive dinners that we all have. So, are there general conversation topics that are safe to introduce to steer away from personal inquiries?
Yeah, and once again, this depends on how comfortable your family is with certain topics. I definitely say stay away from politics because that causes even more turmoil in a family setting. I just know how passionate people get about politics, and even if people have the best intentions with talking about it, it always does dampen the mood. You'll see that, people are having fun, but then it just goes downhill after those
I think that, and also religion is one thing you don't want to talk about.
Yeah, religion is a big thing. I think, just political topics as well that shouldn't be political, like sexuality. But people often think it's political or religion is political when in reality it's just personal choice. And
exactly.
You wouldn't ask a person why they're wearing what they're wearing and what it means, So why would you ask a person about what they believe in? So that those are topics, to answer your question, those are topics to not talk about. But topics to talk about, I think one of the best times of my life have been when we're around the table talking about like childhood memories and bringing up oh, what were our like great grandparents like? Something that everybody would have fun talking about,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Talking
Family
about the
history.
weather, my gosh, you know, you can bring up weather in any situation and
Yeah.
it will de-escalate whatever conversation is
Yeah.
happening. One thing I also have done previously when family friends have been over and I've been uncomfortable in a
Mm-hmm.
situation is I'll randomly get up and say, "Oh, I think I forgot one of the sauces in the fridge." And I'll just like get up and I'll go
Find
grab
a sauce.
something. Yeah. Just to like a distraction or conversation that can be a distraction or telling a funny story about your kid, you know, oh my
Yeah.
God, let me tell you what blah 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 did the other day and it was
Yeah.
so cute.
Yeah.
um just topics that you know are not gonna ignite any type of, you know,
Fire.
fire in on the table or
Yeah.
at the event.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that. Okay. So now dealing with abusive family members,
Oof,
that's a big
yes.
one. What steps can be taken to assertively address abusive behavior from family members without escalating the situation?
You know, I think this is a like a two-step question, right? Or two-answer question,
Okay.
where if you recognize that somebody has abusive tendencies, but it's not dangerous to your well-being, you know,
Yeah.
this person is just maybe lashing out on things that aren't towards you or maybe towards another person, but they're just having, you know, a lot of anger problems
Yeah.
or they're saying things to about things in general, right? That would be a good time to have maybe a one-on-one with them if you feel comfortable that, hey, I noticed that you have been saying things about this person or this topic,
Yeah.
and I'm worried about the type of reaction you're having to it, you know,
Mm-hmm.
or what your viewpoint on this topic is.
Yeah.
And it worries me because I think it's unsafe for you to think that way.
Yeah.
And I think it might be unsafe for me or my kids or my family members to also be around you when you think that way.
Right.
So if you're comfortable and it's not a danger to your health, right?
Yeah.
Have a one-on-one. But if it's something that you think you don't even want to be in the same room as
Yeah.
this person, that would be when you delegate the responsibility onto someone else because that person might respect your parents a lot.
Yeah.
And if your parents sat them down and said, you know, beta, beti, whatever it may
Yeah.
be, like you are acting out and this is unsafe and I do not, you know, accept this type of behavior in my house.
Yeah.
Whether if you can get help, I want you to stop acting this way, but if
Yeah.
you can get help, then
Yeah.
you know it would make our family situation much
Easier.
better.
Yeah.
But just having that boundary of saying this behavior is unacceptable
Yeah.
will often spark another thing within the person where like, okay, am I really being abusive? Am I
Yeah.
really displaying behavior that's unsafe for
Yeah.
others? And most of the times a lot of people will get help after, you know,
Wow.
in situations like this, right?
Right.
Where if a lot of family members come together and have an intervention of
Yeah.
some sort,
Yeah.
I mean, there might be lashing out, but we're hoping to avoid that.
Yeah.
But they might really come to the terms and say, hey, I do need help.
Yeah.
I think one of the greatest stories was my dear friend from AVDA, which is another domestic violence organization in Houston. She was telling me about how she noticed that her daughter was displaying abusive behavior when her boyfriend and her would be at the house, that her daughter would start lashing out on her boyfriend at that time because, you know, he wouldn't put something up correctly or he didn't follow her instructions properly. And so the, you know, my friend Avda and her husband talked and were like, where is she getting this from? Like,
Yeah.
what type of behavior? She self-reflected and she said, I did this to you when she was growing up. I would, you know, lash out on you if you didn't pick something up from the grocery store. She noticed that behavior and now she's exhibiting it into somebody else.
Oh, wow.
And she said, where did I learn this from? Her mother. She was like, it is generational. And it is so important to sit with your thoughts of where this person's getting this from as well.
Yeah.
And the fact that she had the guts to say, it's me, but then also sat down her daughter and said, this is unacceptable behavior. It was like, I got chills when she told me that
story. Because like right now I'm just thinking like, what have I done that might have affected my children or is affecting my children, right? Like that's so important. I'm going to sit down and self-reflect and make sure that I'm handling situations in the right manner and have her not repeat my cycles if there's any.
Children are just like sponges, literally. They will absorb. I think, one of the things that I joke about with my mom, but I'm serious about, is that she used to nitpick, whether it was on my dad or me or my brother.
Yeah.
And you would think that, oh, that's like just a mom. Yeah. But I've noticed that in myself, and I'm like, oh my gosh, take a step back.
Yeah.
You're not going to do this to your friends, your brother, your family members. You're not going to be this way.
Yeah.
And so it like ends with me, basically.
Yes.
I'm not going to let this continue.
That cycle repeat. Oh, wow. I get my OCD-ness from my dad. And yeah, okay. Yeah. So are there community resource or support networks that can provide assistance for individuals dealing with abusive family dynamics?
Yeah, absolutely. And Daya Houston does. Yes. And one of the biggest things is that we don't only deal with like domestic violence situations, right? We also deal with family violence and family abuse that is being exhibited by not just your partner, but your in-laws or your own parents. And we have, really great resources that if a person would like to come in and talk to us about these things, it would be the same way that a DV survivor would come in, is like call the helpline. They have their basically safety planning done. We assess their risk, level. But we really believe that family violence does affect, an individual just as much as domestic violence, if not more. Or I'm not sure of the statistics yet.
Yeah.
But, when you think that a loved one, why would this person do that to me? It tends to, just speaking personally, it tends to make you think even more that, like, this person raised me. This person was supposed to protect me, and why are they doing this? And so we really emphasize that please call Daya or another, domestic violence organization around Houston if you are facing family violence, because it is just as dangerous and just as harmful.
I know that certain things are just not normal.
Absolutely.
We always think, oh, it's just normal. She's been like this always. Mm-hmm. He's been like this always. But it's not normal.
Yeah. And I think, at any age, it's appropriate to bring it up, because one of the things that, my parents will say, oh, like, well, this person's already like 60 something. They're not going to change. And I'm like, no, I think a human being has the capacity to change at any age if they're willing to. I hear that
so much. Yeah.
I mean, you would say that, oh, when I was younger, like, oh, don't do this, don't act this way because you don't want to be like that in a year or 2 years.
Yeah.
Same thing. How does it matter if a person's, 65? And
exactly.
It makes me so angry.
No, you can change if you wanted to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything is possible.
Absolutely. So, yes, please call Daya and reach out to us if you need any help, even if you need resources, some reading material on what family violence looks like, because you might not be sure that you're experiencing it, but we can help you recognize if you are.
Give your Daya's phone number just for, because this is our new.
It's so funny. I have been at Daya for like, God knows, almost 2.5 years now, and our phone number, I still have not remembered it. Yeah. So our confidential helpline is 713-981-7645. And our website is dayahouston.org, where you can find a lot of our information as well as our office and confidential helpline numbers.
Awesome. Now, keeping children safe. So, what precautions should be taken to ensure the safety of children around family members with known issues or concerns?
I always say this about, even adults, is buddy system. I know it's unfortunate that sometimes maybe an unsafe person has to be around the family just because of like, oh, they are family members, so we have to invite them. And I know there's sometimes no way out of that, right?
Yeah.
You can't, I don't know why the Desi culture is like this. It's like you can't leave somebody behind, right? Even though they should definitely not be invited.
Yeah.
Buddy system. Tell your, children that you always have to be around either me or your, sister, brother, cousins. Don't leave their side. And always, my parents used to do this around some creepy family friends we used to have, is my mom would always just say, like, stay around me or stay around your brother. And if there ever is a situation where like this person is trying to talk to you one-on-one, like you can make noise, or you can say like, hey, I want to go to my mom, and like I need to help her, or come up with an excuse. Telling your children that somebody is unsafe will oftentimes make them more vigilant as well to the situation, because I don't know why people want to keep that information away from children. I think it's very important for them to know that, hey, this person might not be safe, and you don't have to go into details of what but telling them to be around you, or keeping an eye, making sure that if all the kids like to play video games, that hey, let's plug it into the main TV where we can watch all of y'all, rather than you can be upstairs in the media room or something. Yeah.
I think sometimes like also like it's hard for parents to recognize who is a not a bad person, but like just not to be around.
Absolutely.
Right? Like we don't know that sometimes.
And it's sometimes the children that tell you, because children will never make up stories like that. They might make up stories like a unicorn came and gave me a flower, but they're never going to say, oh, blah, 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 person was trying to ask me, what, or getting too close, or asking me really weird questions. They're never going to make that stuff up.
Yeah. And you can feel the aura also, like with kids, I think, like they just are more distant when that person is around.
Absolutely.
Or
And this is not the time to tell your, kids to dress differently because this person is coming. Because I always tell my parents this. They would be like, oh, you're wearing shorts right now. Can you change out? This person's coming over. And I'm like, if I can't wear shorts around this person, why are they coming over to like my safe space, So first of all, this person should not even be invited.
Not at all.
But don't make your children change the way that they act, or feel comfortable, because that's essentially teaching them that it's okay that this weird person's around.
But you change yourself.
You're responsible to keep their behavior at bay.
Ooh, that's heavy. Okay, how can one educate children about setting personal boundaries and recognizing unsafe situations during family gatherings?
Yeah, I think, Sasha, you're doing an amazing job with your girls, where you are giving them autonomy. You are telling them that, hey, you're allowed to say no. You're allowed to ask.
And that's thanks to y'all. All the stuff that we learn is from y'all. So thank you.
But yeah, allowing autonomy, allowing children to say, no, I don't want to. There were so many times when I'm sure all of us, when we were younger, we didn't want to go somewhere, but we were kind of forced because parents were like, what will people say if you don't show up as well? But allowing your children to make the decision for themselves. Of course, if they're saying, I'm going to eat like a whole cake for dinner tonight, no.
That's not happening.
I'm saying like, oh, if you want to be in your room while these people are over, sure. Maybe if you feel like it at some point, you can come down and say hi, or come down whenever dinner's ready, or when you have to do maybe a religious prayer. But, it's okay for you to do your own thing. And teaching them that they're the owner of their bodies and they're the owner of their own mind, will really empower them to start setting boundaries, maybe with you, and say, not in a bad way at all, but saying, hey, like your daughter said, hey mom, can I please just have 10 minutes to myself? Can, like, you can already imagine that if somebody else was saying something to her, she'd be like, no, thank you, like, I don't want to hug you, or I don't want to, eat this food that you cooked. And recognizing signs that somebody might be unsafe, Of course, it varies from person to person, but as we always talk about, trusting your gut, like you as a parent, what you think is unsafe for your child,
Yeah.
and then telling them that, hey, maybe some people can be weird, or
Yeah.
like have these tendencies, and when you see those tendencies, I want you to come directly to me, or if you see this happening at your friend's house, like call me immediately, and teaching them about the signs that you're seeing, within your life and where you're comfortable, right? Because you're not going to have a conversation with a 5-year old about
Yeah.
like possibly, more, I guess, sexual things,
Yeah.
right? That do unfortunately occur, but what's appropriate for your child at that age?
Yeah.
Your no zone. Like, don't
Yeah.
let, if you're allowing your child to go over to a friend's house, right? And if they have a babysitter, like, don't allow them to, help you change your clothes. Like, you
Yeah.
change your clothes yourself.
Yeah.
Those are just a few examples, but you as moms know way better than, I mean, me, right? As to like how to keep your kids safe.
Yeah.
But just open conversations will really, really allow for children to be able to grasp the idea that not everybody is good,
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate, but it's so important.
Okay. So, are there signs or red flags to watch for when it comes to potential risk to children during family gatherings?
Yeah, I think really, like, if a person's just really trying to have a one-on-one conversation all the time with your child, or one of the things I always say to look out for is like, maybe if your family member is like tickling your kid once is fine, but if you can visibly see that your child is getting uncomfortable with that type of like, pulling the hair, whatever it may be, if you see your child's getting uncomfortable, that is a sign that person is, way too, like,
too friendly.
Too friendly, overdoing it. And maybe that's when you have a conversation, maybe it's an older cousin, right? You can have a conversation with the older cousin and say, hey, I don't think, my child likes when you do that. Can you please stop? If it still doesn't stop, then that's the time to have a conversation with the parents or your own family members to say, this isn't okay with me. It's not okay with my child, but it's not okay with me either. So what are we going to do about this?
I like that.
But really just keeping an eye out for things that don't look right. Like one-on-one conversations, teasing, whether pulling hair. I feel like that gets really shoved to the side because a lot of parents will say, oh, that's just their way of playing around. And I don't believe in that, because when I would say stop, if my, cousins were ever tickling me, they would. Because they just knew that I'm
not comfortable.
Was going to scream my head off. But so yes.
Oh, wow. Okay, that has been some great information. The holiday season is already a stressful season. And then to have or be around people that are creating a unsafe environment, especially for your children or for yourself, then I like the tips that you've given us and how to navigate through them, because I think we all need those. So thank you so much. And it's always so insightful to have you guys here, because every time you come here I always learn something new, and then I try to apply that to my actual life, which you can see how I train my kids. So thank you so much for coming. And do you have any last words to say to our listeners?
Thank you, Chai Time Ladies, of course, always, for having us here. But really, the holiday times are just, we hope that you have a very safe holiday season, whether you celebrate or not. But once again, we're here for you. And, if you do have any questions or concerns about what you might be going through, Daya is always here to help. And wishing you a very good holiday season that's coming up. And fingers crossed, you don't have to think about any of the scenarios we talked about.
Yes, amen to that. Thank you, listeners, for joining us once again here on 103.5 Hum FM. As always, we will see you next week. And signing off, your Chai Time Girls. Bye.